welcome to WRPB and WRPB Studios. So you guys have known me forever. I'm an animal lover, love pets, um, love dogs, but since I had the strokes, I kind of dread having to go out and take a dog for a walk. So without a pet, life is not complete. So I got cats. But the lady sitting next to me has been around pets, dogs, I'm going to guess, for a long time. We're going to learn more about her. Next to me is Tony, and you're with Ruff to Regal.
Canine dog training.
Canine training?
Yes, Ruff to Regal canine dog training.
Okay. My first question is, how long are you doing it?
I've been doing this 10 years now. I started in 2015.
Why?
That's when I started my career with dog training. I fell into the job at a local Petco where I started my career. I got certified there, began teaching group classes, private trainings, and then I also began working simultaneously at a local board and train, which was originally in Vero, then relocated to Palm City. I did that for 2 years.
Okay, so this is your calling.
Yes.
Okay. And before we got on the air, we were talking about how much you love pets.
Yeah, I got my first dog when I was 2. His name was Bingo. Bingo was his name-o.
So I can tell you this. I've had all kinds of dogs. One time I had 8 pugs. But my last dog was a rescue, and they all have been rescues. And he was a golden. And he was really abused. I got him. He had 8 stitches. He was pulled with a car. He had a bunch of cigarette burns and no hair. I got him at 18 months. He ended up living till 18 years.
Wow, that's a long life for a golden.
For golden, yeah. Yeah, he had the life. After the misery he went through, he had the life. But that was a golden. You train all kinds of dogs.
All breeds, all sizes, all ages.
Okay, so the question is, are you scared of any of them?
No.
Have you been bitten?
I have one time, yes.
Just one time?
Just one time.
Oh, that's not
And
bad.
it wasn't intentional. It wasn't the dog's fault. It was where my hand was accidentally placed and the way it moved its head, and it would just happen to be a 115-pound dog. So
Oh, wow.
tooth that size can do a little damage, even if it just
I would
scrapes.
think, what's your favorite kind of dog to train? Or what's the easiest kind of dog to train?
The
Let's start with that.
funnest and probably the easiest would probably be a border collie. They just want to work. They're so much fun. They're ready to go.
And they're smart.
And they're so smart.
Oh
And they're
my
so
God.
loyal.
What's the hardest dog to train?
The owner.
Well, that makes sense because they don't get it that once you're done training, it's not done.
If you don't use it, they lose it.
Right.
If you have to keep up with it, you have to be patient. You have to be repetitious. And if you're not consistent, neither will they be.
Okay, so, and I hate to put you on the spot, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Shock collars.
So I try to work on positive reinforcement. That is my goal. That is the way I start every training session. That is the method I truly do believe in. I am a balance trainer where I have used those. I do know how to use them properly. And if it is the proper course, then I will go that route. But it's not the first thing I just want to put on a dog right away.
So, and what I've learned over the years, and I sit on the board of DDS for vets, we give service dog to vets that are trained. I don't do the training. But there's all kinds of different kind of training.
There's a bunch of different methods.
So I call you up and I say, hey, I just rescued a dog. Yes, rescue. That's really the only way to go.
All my dogs have always been rescues.
I rescued a dog. Let's just say I rescued a golden. What are you going to ask me? I want the dog trained. What are you going to ask me? I mean, because there's a million things you can train for, right?
Correct.
Okay, what are you going to ask me?
What are your issues? What are your goals with the dog? Obviously, I have to figure out where the dog's temperament is because there's not one method for every dog. And if it's a dog like that, that's been abused, that's had a tough time, it's not something that can be quick. The dog needs time, needs patience. It has to relearn how to think and process different scenarios. Because just like humans, dogs do have triggers, PTSD, things like that. So it really depends on the case of the dog.
I mean, he lived to 18, and I had a house with a pool, screened-in pool, and I'd come home from work, and you'd see his paw prints from the pool to the Chase Lounge where he would be laying, okay? And he'd look at you like, I'm just taking some sun, leave me alone, you know? And he was well-behaved, even from the get-go. And I'm going to guess, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that he was happy that he found a forever home.
Oh, yeah. I've had rescues like that.
I mean, I think,
Oh yeah.
you know, I mean, people will watch this and go, yeah, but what about pit bulls? And my philosophy is a little different than most. I think the pit bull issue is the owner,
Correct.
not the dog.
Correct. Back in the day, they were originally nanny dogs. Every pit bull I've met has been super sweet, and the ones that had a little bit of problems had problems when they were younger. They had trauma, they had things that happened, or parents, owners that were abusive, things like that. So it's not the dog, it's not the breed, and to stereotype's not fair.
Well, I think they stereotype that dog or that breed because if you get bit by, for lack of a better word, let's just say a Dalmatian, and you get bit by a pit bull, there's going to be a difference. A pit bull is all muscle.
Yes,
Okay.
the jaw strength is much much different.
Right. So it- it's just as bad if you get. Look, I can tell you right now, if I'm scared, I'm not scared of pit bulls. I'm scared of Chihuahuas.
I was gonna say they're the ones you should be afraid of. Them and dachshunds.
Oh, doctors too.
Oh yeah, they're little ankle biters.
Yeah, I think that the Chihuahuas just think that they're these Great Danes.
And most people with smaller dogs just solve their problems by scooping them up and doing that and not teaching them the ways sit, down, stay, and all those different things. Put them in a bag, put them in a stroller, and just solve their problems that way.
What's so you get a dog and you're going to train someone calls they want the dog trained. What are the most important basics to train a dog?
To me, the basics of the dogs, the tools in their tool belt they need to build that nice dog: sit, down, come, stay, leave it. I really like to teach a focus or a look command. Those are the main essentials to me.
Okay, so that's part of basic training, for lack of a better word.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so how advanced do you get?
I mean, I can take dogs all the way to, task training for service dogs and things like that, past the AKC Canine Good Citizen, Urban Good Citizen. So, I mean, it really depends on the goals of the owner.
Okay, so I've met a number of trainers, and some believe that when you're out, you shouldn't let anybody touch your dog.
It depends on the goals of the owner. So when I'm working with dogs, like if I have my own dogs out in public, I try to, if I'm walking past people, leave it, let's go, have them ignore. If somebody does ask me, may I pet your dog? Sure, I don't mind. Now, if that dog is service dog training, then no. The answer is definitely no. If the dog needs to be socialized with humans because it's had negative experiences, then we need to make positive experiences. And doing that through socialization can be very beneficial. So it really all depends.
Do you get a lot of the dogs that you going to train from people that are not puppies or even puppies? That one of the things they complain about is the dog jumps up. The dog jumps up.
My favorite is they complain about, oh, the dog jumps. And I say, well, what do they know? What have you taught them? Oh, they know how to hug,
Right.
but they don't understand. They're like, but what do you mean?
And it's for everybody.
Yes.
Okay.
It's consistency.
What about what you hear about, which is, I don't know if I got the words right. Separation anxiety.
That's a very big thing with dogs. It depends on where they've come from, what their history is. It also depends a lot on the owners. I know COVID hit dogs a lot harder than it hit people, in
Did it
my
really?
opinion, because everybody was home with their dogs. They weren't socializing them, they weren't going out. So especially training dogs from 2020 to 2022 was a bit of a rough experience. But now that a lot of more people are doing remote work, they spend most of their time with their dogs.
So the way I see it in my mind is that COVID came, and I don't even like to use that word, and people were home,
Correct.
and they were home for this period of time, and then they go back to work. Does that then change the attitude of the dog? Because you were home with me, you're home, now you're home with me, where are you?
Yep. So it does in a lot of different ways, especially because the dog now isn't obviously getting the attention. They're not getting that physical activity that they were. They're not getting the socialization with the humans. They're not getting as much mental stimulation. So when they go from having all this energy expended to being stuck home alone for X amount of hours now, parents getting home tired, now bad behaviors start to pursue because they're not getting the energy expelled that they really need to.
Okay, so we have mentioned Some dogs are super, super intelligent.
Correct.
Are they harder to train or are they easier to train?
Both.
Okay.
It's a double-edged sword, and the reason for is they're smart, so they catch on quick. They want to learn, but they're also smart enough to know what they can try to get away with, and they know how to push buttons and trying to see, well, how consistent are you really going to be?
So I'm going to guess that you've trained a dog for one thing, just to say one thing, and you've trained it a specific way, and if you stop doing that, they're going to find a different way to do.
If the owner isn't keeping up with it in the same manner that I am, then yes. If they're not holding them to the same standards, that kind of thing.
Does it take long to train a dog?
Such a hard question. It really depends on the dog, how much time and effort's being put in. I've got the people that I can tell are doing their homework and practicing with them. And then I can tell the people that say they're practicing. I have some dogs that just get it real quick, second try, and they're solid. I have some dogs that are off in la la land sometimes, and it takes a little bit more to get them focused.
I have a bunch of people like that. So I know a bunch of people in La La Land, me being one. But, I think that the companionship is important, and I think I hate to say it, it's especially important for elders.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and if you have an elder or you are an elder and you get a dog, I think it's super, super important that you have that dog trained, because I think that
You'll enjoy them more.
right. Okay, what about? I hate to do this to you. What's your opinion about going to the supermarket and seeing dogs that have, for lack of a better word, they're fake certificates? Okay.
So I am not a big fan of
I wrote
that.
it with a crayon.
I have that question all the time, like, oh, how do I make them a service dog? And my first question is always, well, what service do you need them to provide? And that's when they go, I want to take them places. Well, that doesn't count. So, I'm all for socializing dog, training them in public locations that allow your dogs to take you. But I tell people not in the grocery stores, unless it is a trained service dog that is there to perform tasks for their owner, it doesn't need to be there.
Do you think that the emotional service dog has gotten taken advantage of?
Highly.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. And
Like I said, they buy a little vest for the dog, and with a crayon they write emotional service.
I've seen
And you're laughing,
ones almost
but-
that look just like that.
Okay.
Or the dog is on a retractable leash and barking its head off at people, and it's service dog.
What about? What about? Do you think, like, on the little dogs, like the Shih Tzus and the Chihuahuas, do you think it's a benefit to put them in a stroller?
No. I mean,
Service-wise?
maybe if it was something that would benefit the owner, like if they had a disability or something, but I do believe that all of them should be on the ground, because that's how they learn, that's how they socialize, that's how you teach them how to be the dog you want. They're not learning anything in the stroller, unless they're old. Like my friend does have a pit bull that's probably 10, and she bought her a stroller so she can still take her on walks. So that I highly approve of that stroller for that reason.
And the last two pieces of this is to tell you people that, does the dog feel what we feel weather-wise?
The weather?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I do believe that they definitely pick up on the weather, that's for sure. Dogs definitely pick up on the human's energy as well, too. And that's also one of the more difficult parts with the training, is getting the owner to be confident in the situation and know how to properly communicate with the dog.
And if the weather is going to be like 100 degrees and 100% humidity, don't leave the dog outside. That's a terrible thing to do.
Don't leave them outside. Don't leave them in the car. If you're out during the summertime, have water with you. Check the temperature of the concrete. That's the only time I'll allow them to run with me across the street, is when we have
Okay.
to get from grass to the sidewalk real fast.
Yeah, I'm that way too. And it's interesting because I don't think people understand that the dog's paws and those pads they get hot too.
Oh, they can burn and they can blister too if they're on the concrete and the asphalt for too long. A lot of people really don't understand. If it hurts your feet, it definitely hurts their feet.
We're getting to the top of the time. How do people find you? You have a website,
Yes.
which is
Ruff2regalcanine.com.
Ruff, R-U-F-F?
RUFF.
Right. And a phone number?
772-985-0795.
Tony, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Everybody, I've said it a million times, I'll say it again. Use a professional. If you don't use a professional, you're going to have 5 times more money out of pocket and 10 times more frustration. With that, have a great day, and we'll be right back.